and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a video I thought about doing for some time now, and here we are. I'm going to give you my list of my top steelbooks that are both in value and in rarity. I thought about how I would do this, and let me just say up front, I'm a huge kind of steelbook, or let me just say metal casing collector. I enjoy kind of getting these limited editions. Enjoy getting the kind of like the cool feel of a steelbook in my hands. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to split it into two lists, because I feel that I have some editions that are quite scarce but not particularly valuable, and some editions that you can see and come quite often on eBay, but they are of a higher kind of price. So I'm going to do my top 20, but kind of two sets of 10, so to speak. So the first list is going to be my top 10 kind of rare steelbooks, if you like, but not necessarily the most expensive ones, whilst the second list is going to be the kind of the most valuable ones, so to speak. I mean, there is some crossover here, but I've chosen 20 kind of separate kind of steelbooks in total, and then some, some are scarce and rare, some are one or the other. And I will say as well, I'm going to be counting things like kind of metal packs, future packs in this as well, because there are a few editions here. Now, before we kind of get into it again, I want to suggest this is just my collection. I'm not saying these are the definitive most expensive or most kind of scarce steelbooks that are out there, just ones I have in my collection. And to be honest with you, I was thinking about trying to do a kind of have a look and get the price and do it in price, but it was kind of impossible, because the price is ultimately what people want to pay. So it's just kind of less of an order to a degree. I've put them in some kind of semi-order, but it's not necessarily a strict top 10. So we'll start off with the what I think are 10 scarce steelbooks and metal pack editions that aren't necessarily massively valuable, but ones where you don't see them very much. And then the second list will be ones that probably are, you'll be paying a little bit more for if you were to get them on the kind of a secondary market. So let's get started. So here we are with my list of my most scarce kind of Blu-ray or DVD, in this case, steelbooks that aren't maybe necessarily worth tons, but are quite rare on the ground. Now, I'm a huge Marvel fan. This is not the first time you see a Marvel film here. And Man-Thing was one of my favourite comic characters kind of growing up. And this is the Dutch, I believe, DVD steelbook of Man-Thing. It's never actually been released on Blu-ray, let alone a Blu-ray steelbook. And you can get this Dutch edition, which I believe is the only one that actually comes with 2 discs. That includes special features, like, for example, like a music video, where you actually get a pretty good look at the Man-Thing who actually shows up in the music video. So that's a pretty scarce steelbook for a somewhat forgotten Marvel film. Next up, we'll talk about is Demolition Man, and this is a German steelbook. I think maybe one of Matt Stallone's most underrated movie that stars Wesley Snipes, and is kind of a dystopian future movie, a fun film, and this I believe was the only edition that came out on steelbook, and this one does go for a reasonable amount of money, but yeah, you don't see it around all that much. So that is Demolition Man. Here's one called Rampage. Now, this was the game adaptation that starred Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I was a huge fan of the Rampage game back in the arcade days, showing me age now. And I really enjoyed this Japanese exclusive steelbook because of the kind of like the really kind of cool artwork. The film was okay. I don't think the film was anything too special, but I just loved this kind of artwork. I thought it was brilliant. And this was exclusive to HMV, but only in Japan. So it was a relatively hard movie. I mean, I got this brand new when it came out. I pre-ordered it, but I don't know how how hard it is to get now, to be honest. So there you go. That is Rampage. Next up, we're talking is Centurion. Now, this is actually a metal pack, and I believe it's some Netherlands or Dutch, somewhere like that. And this was possibly the the one that I was kind of looking for ages and just could not find. And it took me absolutely ages to get this one, and finally I found it on eBay, and I was really pleased to get it. So this was directed by Neil Marshall, who of course directed Dog Soldiers and The Descent. A Roman movie starring Michael Fassbender, among others. So yeah, this is a pretty fun kind of metal pack that is, you know, I didn't pay a lot of money for this one, but I've only ever seen it online twice, and I got it one of those times. Next up we have Suspiria. Now this was a metal pack that was a Indiegogo, I believe. Indiegogo or Kickstarter, one of them. I think it was Indiegogo though. It was a you know, a perk if you put money towards the kind of the restoration and everything. So it's a numbered edition and really kind of heavily embossed, and I just think it looks so good. I mean, out of all of the kind of the ones on this list, I think this is probably the most common because it does come up here and there. But yeah, I like it. It doesn't go for megabucks, but I think it's, you know, I personally feel this is the nicest out of the Suspiria editions. Another pretty rare one is Eden Lake, and again, this is, I think, some sort of either Dutch or Nordic metal pack. This, to me, I think it asks, what's the scariest horror film? And I would say this one, because you really feel this could happen. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but this is a genuinely, I would even go upsetting film. That once again stars Michael Fassbender, actually. And yeah, it's a decent movie, and this metal pack is pretty scarce on the ground, and there you go. Going back to Neil Marshall, this is The Descent, as mentioned, and there's actually a kind of a standard Descent steelbook. This is actually a metal pack, which I've only ever seen once when I actually got it, and it's actually numbered to 1,000, which I don't know how well that will show up just there. You can get the Descent 2 on a similar looking design, and yeah, I think this is a much better design personally than the actual steelbook. So I really like this one, and I'm pleased to have both of them in my collection, although I'm only obviously showing this one. Next up is another metal pack, and this is the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I believe this is some type of Asian steelbook, not quite sure where from. I'm not a huge anime fan. This is obviously based on a video game. It's kind of like a spin-off almost from the actual kind of video game. I had an ex-girlfriend that was obsessed with this film, and yeah, Final Fantasy Advent Children. Next up is the Masters of the Universe Spanish steelbook. Now, there are actually three different, well, I say steel, this is actually a metal pack. There are three different metal packs for Masters of the Universe that, of course, star Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella. This is my favourite one, and I would say this one is the thinnest on the ground. Now, interestingly, I had pre-ordered this from the Amazon Spain, but they had over-ordered and cancelled all of the international orders from the UK at least, so it was difficult to get hold of. Limited to 2,000. I managed to snag it, I think, on a Facebook group, and this one kind of goes for the most, I think, out of all of the three editions of the Masters of the Universe. And to me, I just kind of like the artwork the best, and it is kind of quite heavily embossed as well. Next up we have Commando, the Director's Cut, and this is actually the Japanese edition. Now the Commando Director's Cut, even the UK version, you know, goes for a reasonable amount of money, but the Japanese edition, which actually has a completely different artwork on it, again, it goes for more than that. I have seen it go on eBay, come up on eBay a few times. This is why it's on this list, and yeah, so it's kind of like you know, it doesn't go for a few megabucks, but I like it. I think it's a really cool edition. Right, so now we're going to go on to, I think, ones that are more valuable. Now, some of these do come up, you know, fairly often sometimes on eBay and stuff. Others not so much, but we'll discuss. Now, to start off with is the metal pack for Ash versus the Evil Dead, which was, as you can see here, a Best Buy exclusive. Now, they released the 3 seasons. I think a second 2 were actually on steelbooks rather than metal packs. But it's the first one that kind of is the kind of the one that kind of goes for the kind of the money, and it's a nice embossed metal pack with the kind of the chainsaw there, and it's a continuation from the kind of the Evil Dead franchise. It stars, of course, no other than Bruce Campbell. So that is Ash versus the Evil Dead Season 1. Next up is I think it's Future Shop edition of Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. And this one I think was exclusive to either Future Shop or Best Buy. I can't remember. It's a Canadian version. And I have to thank a fellow YouTuber, Donny at Cinematic77, for getting me this one. And this is this out of all this list, at time of filming this is my most kind of recent edition. And yeah, I like this one because obviously it has kind of the skeleton motif at the front here. It looks really cool. And yeah, this one goes for a reasonable amount of money at the moment. And then we look at the Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. Now they did these kind of pop art editions. And this one was never actually released in the UK as a kind of as this particular kind of one. This was only released, I believe, in America. And out of all of the pop art ones, this one tends to be the kind of the one that goes for the most money. And to be honest with you, I think it's one of the kind of the weaker films, maybe even the weakest out of the kind of the Resident Evil films. But maybe that's why they made less of them, and which is why it's kind of the one which attracts kind of the most of money. But there you go, Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. This one is actually quite rare. I rarely ever see this one, and this is the German 4K Rambo trilogy steelbook. And this one, I haven't seen this one on kind of on eBay or whatever for absolutely ages, and it goes for a lot of money. Now I actually managed to pick this up for quite cheap, but it was like a real just lucky break, to be honest. And yeah, you barely ever see this one, and when you do see it, it goes these days for a pretty penny. But yeah, so this one's very hard to get hold of, I would suggest, if you're kind of a Rambo fan. It's maybe even harder than another steelbook that might be on this list in actual scarcity, but maybe not as kind of valuable. So that is the Rambo trilogy steelbook. Next up, we have Battlestar Galactica, and this is the pilot movie. And this one is a premium steelbook. Now, I've tried to avoid having all premiums on this list, to be honest with you, but this one is a premium steelbook, and this one is limited, as you can see here, to just 200 pieces. Now, this was from a company called Steel Archive, which has gone bust since. And it's a German, the actual steelbook itself was a German edition, and this was kind of like one of the premium edition of that. And as such, it's obviously quite scarce on the ground, with only 200 made. And yeah, it goes for, if it does come up, goes for quite a lot of money now. Next up, we have the Sucker Punch, and this is the Comic-Con edition. Now, this is actually a Blu-ray release, but it is actually a G1 size. G1 meaning the DVD style sort of size of steelbook. It's actually got 4 discs on it as well, so it's quite it's got quite a lot of content in it, really. But yeah, so it's a nice edition. I like the kind of this kind of artwork. I think you can get this artwork on some of the kind of the premium editions, but it is actually, this is the Comic-Con one, which is obviously exclusive to that, and therefore it kind of goes for a fair bit of money. Next up, we have the Blue Fans Doctor Strange lenticular version. Now, I've got a few kind of premium steelbooks, certainly of Marvel, and I thought I'd better have, a Blue Fans on here, but it was which one? So I thought I'd go with this one, which is probably one of the more, Doctor Strange tends to be one of the more expensive ones. This one's limited to 700. Now I don't have the double lenticular, which goes for even more money than this, but this is probably, out of the blue fans that I've got, probably the most expensive. So there you go. Nice kind of steelbook. Doctor Strange isn't one of my favourite Marvel films, if I'm completely honest, but it's still a nice design. Now we're getting into the big ones, the top three. Now I've mentioned another Rambo steelbook, and this is it. So this is the original German steelbook for John Rambo, which of course is the 4th movie, and this one was kind of taken off sale, which is why it's it goes for so much money now. As far as I'm aware, it's one of the first Blu-ray steelbooks that came available, and this came out sort of kind of before it was rated by the kind of the German rating system, which is why it was taken off sale. And then you also have the fact that this comes with a tattoo, and of course many of the tattoos were kind of taken out and used. I won't get it out, but it is in there. So this one, although it's not sealed, the tattoo is still unused and in immaculate condition. So this one goes for a decent amount of money these days. I mean, some people massively overvalue it, to be honest. But if you're a kind of a Blu-ray steelbook hunter and you want the kind of the most sought after ones, this one has got to be in the conversation. As has this one, which I think is probably the other most kind of talked about sort of Blu-rays and steelbook. Again, one of the kind of the earlier Blu-ray steelbooks. This is the Future Shop Iron Man steelbook. A lot of people don't like the kind of the blue sort of sachet. I can't say it bothers me, to be honest. Again, one of the earliest Blu-ray steelbooks, and it has decreased in value in recent years because people have kind of moved on to kind of the premium ones. And this, to be fair, is somewhat of a boring design, but yeah, it still goes for a reasonable amount of money, even though the value has decreased somewhat in kind of recent years. And like the Rambo before it, if you want to kind of collect some of the most sought after steelbooks, this is definitely one that is kind of in the conversation. But my number one, and I know this is probably legitimately the most valuable steelbook I own, and that is Elektra. And this is the Film Arena Premium Edition that I got for £35 when it first came out. Can you believe it? And this one, you're looking at north of 200, maybe even £300 for this one. Now, the actual basic steelbook, which came out, I believe, in Zavvi, that goes for at least sort of like £100 these days if you're looking at a good condition one. So the actual premium one, which mine is, I haven't opened it, it's limited to 300 pieces, goes for ridiculously expensive and probably one of the more valuable Marvel steelbooks, at all, really. And it's a nice edition. You've got the kind of the card on the back there, and I was so lucky to have just I'll get that one when I kind of saw it when it was first kind of out, and I managed to pick it up for £35, and it's gone up tenfold, really. So that is my collection of my scarce and valuable kind of steelbooks. Like I said, I know this isn't the most exhaustive list of ones that are out there, and there are a few that I was kind of waiting for. Things like kind of Solomon Kane on Metal Pack, maybe this kind of the Thor Blue fans I maybe wanted to try and kind of pick up before doing this list. But this is the list as it stands now. What do you think? Any additions there that you haven't seen before, or that you maybe want to pick up yourself? Let me know, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.